شيخنا.
نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله أجمعين. حياكم الله وبياكم، ونسأل الله أن يفتح علي وعليكم بالعلم النافع والعمل الصالح والإخلاص فيهما والصواب. السؤال 52 بعد 100: ما الفرق بين المرسل والمنقطع؟ الجواب: المرسل مخصوص بالتابعي، أي هو مرفوع التابعي إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مطلقا. قال: والمنقطع شامل للمرسل، لأن المرسل نوع من أنواع المنقطع، شامل للمرسل ولغيره. ويعزى هذا التفريق بين الإرسال وبين الانقطاع لابن عبد البر، وإن كان استعمال ابن عبد البر رحمه الله تعالى في كتاب التمهيد أنه يستعمل الإرسال لما يتعلق بمرفوع التابع ولما يتعلق بما لم يتصل بحال من الأحوال سنده. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. The Sheikh Hafidullah, he began this 14th lecture in the series of classes in explanation of the book in which the Sheikh summarized the book Muqaddam ibn Salah in Q&A format, the 14th lecture in the series, by sending praise upon Allah Ta'ala and peace and salutations upon Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Then the Sheikh Hafidullah, he welcomed all of the students to the series of lectures and made dua for them that Allah Ta'ala opens and upon them and blesses them with beneficial knowledge and righteous actions and sincerity in this. Then the Sheikh said, we'll continue where we left off in the series from question number 152 in this book. And now we'll enter into a second type of weak da'if hadith based on a break in the chain of narration. The first one, which we covered in the previous lectures, was the mursal hadith. And from this question, we will start the second type of weak hadith due to a break in the chain of narration, that is a munqati' hadith. The question 152, it says that what is the difference between the mursal and the munqati' hadith? What is the difference between these two terminologies? The answer, it says that the mursal hadith, it is specific with the tabi'i. It is specific with the tabi'i, and the tabi'i is the one who met a sahabi from the sahaba, a companion from the companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As far as the munqati', then it is inclusive of that which is from the narration of a tabi'i upon the authority of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and from other than him, and from other than him. And this difference between mursal and munqati' is ascribed to Imam Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah. The Shaykh Hafidullah, he added to this question by saying, as we have covered in the previous classes, that the mursal hadith, it is marfu' at-tabi'i. It is that which a tabi'i raises and ascribes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, regardless of if he was a major tabi'i, a tabi'i al-kabir, or a minor tabi'i, a tabi'i al-saghir. All of this is called mursal. As far as a munqati' hadith, then it is that hadith that is with a broken chain, where the chain is not connected, in which there is a break in the chain of narration. It includes the mursal hadith, because the mursal, it is a type of munqati' in which there's a break at the ending of the chain, in which the tabi'i raises a hadith to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it includes the mursal break, and also other than it, if there's a break in the middle of the chain or before it, regardless of if the break is a single narrator or more than it, then all of it is called munqati'. All of it is called munqati'. And Imam Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah, in his book At-Tamheed, the greatest explanation of Muwatta Malik, then he uses the mursal terminology in both these meanings, to mean that which the tabi'i raises with the Prophet ﷺ, and also to mean that which has a broken chain, regardless of where the break occurs. Naam Shaykhana.
السؤال 53 بعد 100: ذكر ابن الصلاح رحمه الله صورتين من صور الانقطاع ابتدأ بهما في تعريف المنقطع، وهو النوع العاشر عند قوله معرفة المنقطع. فما هما هاتان الصورتان؟ الجواب: أولى الصورتين الإسناد الذي قبل الوصول إلى التابعي، ولو جاء التعقب ذلك الذي تقدم قبل أوانه، لو قيل الصحابي قبل الوصول إلى الصحابي لكان أسلم من الاعتراض، لأن سقوط التابعي داخل ضمن المنقطع. قال: الإسناد الذي قبل الوصول إلى التابع راو لم يسمع من الذي فوقه. والأخرى، الصورة الأخرى، الإسناد الذي ذكر فيه بعض رواته بلفظ مبهم. المبهم ما فيه راو لم يسم كرجل، أو سمي ولكن لا تعرف عينه كزيد، نحو رجل أو شيخ. وإذا سمي يقال معين ولا يقال مبهم. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafidullah, he moved on to the next question, which is question number 153, in which the question says that Imam Ibn Salah, he mentioned two types of inqita, a break that occurs in the chain of narration, that he started this new terminology with, that we have started, the munqati terminology, which is the 10th terminology in this book, Muqaddam Ibn Salah, in which he said Ma'rifat al-munqati, knowing the munqati hadith and the munqati terminology. So Imam Ibn Salah started this with mentioning two types from the types of inqita, break that occurs in the chain of narrations, when he began with the definition of the munqati hadith. So what are these two types that he mentioned? The answer to this question is that the first of these types is that chain in which there is a narrator who did not hear from the one above him before it reaches the tabi'i. And the Shaykh Hafidullah, he mentioned that Imam Ibn Salah was criticized regarding this statement, because if he had said before it reaches the Sahabi, then that would have been better. That would have been more correct, that there's a narrator who narrates upon a person who he did not hear from before the Sahabi. Because for him to say a tabi'i, then it is as if he has excluded the tabi'i from this definition, hadith. So this is the first type. The second type is the chain of narration in which there's a narrator, but he has not been named. There's a mubham narrator, a unknown narrator. And the Sheikh mentioned that the mubham narrator, he is the one who's mentioned without a name, such as Rajul, and Rajul upon the authority of a man, or and Sheikh upon the authority of a Sheikh. We do not know the name of this narrator, let alone his status and reliability in relaying hadith. And Zayd. This is the second type that Imam Ibn Salah has mentioned. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 54 بعد 100: هل هاتان الصورتان يعني السابقتا ذكر آخر المنتهى في تعريف المنقطع، ولا يوجد صور أخرى للمنقطع غير تلكم الصورتين؟ دلل على ذلك يعني اذكر الدليل على ذلك. الجواب: الصورتان السابقتان، وهما الإسناد الذي قبل الوصول إلى التابع فيه راو لم يسمع من الذي فوقه، أو ما فيه راو مبهم. والصواب في الصورة الثانية يقال فيه إسناد فيه راو مبهم، لا يقال فيه منقطع. هل هاتان الصورتان آخر المنتهى في تعريف المنقطع؟ اذكر الدليل على ذلك. الجواب: ليستا بآخر المنتهى، بالدليل أن نص ابن الصلاح في موضعين من هذا النوع هو منه، يقول منه الإسناد، يعني من صوره الإسناد، من صوره الإسناد. ولوجود صور عديدة تقدم ذكر بعضها وسيأتي ذكر البعض الآخر. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafidullah moved on to the next question, question number 154, which says that are the two types of inqita, a break in the chain of narration that has preceded, meaning the first type that in which there is a narrator who narrates upon a narrator who he did not hear from before the tabi'i, and the second type in which there is a mubham narrator. There's a narrator, but he is unknown, and rajul, and sheikh. And the sheikh mentioned that the correct position regarding this chain in which there's a mubham narrator, that is the position of the majority of the scholars of hadith, is that this chain is not a munqati' chain. Rather, it is to be said that it is a chain that has a rawin mubham, that has a narrator who is mubham, that it is a connected chain, but in it is a narrator who is not known. So the question says that are these two types that Imam ibn Salah mentioned in the definition of the munqati' hadith, are they the only two types of inqita, break that occurs in the chain of narration, and what is the proof for that? The answer to this question is that these two are not the only types of inqita, break that occurs in the chain of the narration of a hadith. And the proof of that is that Imam ibn Salah, then he mentioned in his speech, in his book Muqaddam ibn Salah, when he mentioned both these two types, he said, minhul isnad, that from the types of inqita, from the types of breaks that occur in the chains of narration, then he mentioned these two types. So he mentioned two types from the various types of inqita. So these are not just the two types. These are not just the two types of inqita break that occurs, as will come in the coming questions. There are several in number. Naam, Shaykh.
السؤال 55 بعد 100. بماذا استدرك العلماء على قول ابن الصلاح في تعريف المنقطع في قوله الإسناد الذي فيه قبل الوصول إلى التابع راو لم يسمع، مع التعليل أي مع ذكر العلة، مع ذكر السبب؟ الجواب: استدركوا على قوله قبل الوصول إلى التابع، فقالوا لو قال قبل الوصول إلى الصحابي لكان أولى. إيش العلة والسبب؟ لأن الانقطاع يقع في طبقة التابعين، فقد يسقط التابعي من الإسناد، فيطلق على سقوط التابعية أيضا أنه منقطع. لكن لو قلنا قبل الوصول إلى التابعي فمعناه أن السقوط طارئ على من قبل طبقة التابعين دون التابعي. والواقع والحقيقة والصواب هو أن التابعي يدخل ضمن تعريف من يسقط، وبالتالي يدخل ضمن تعريف ما يسمى بالمنقطع. نعم.
Assalamu alaikum. Then the Shaykh Hafidullah moved on to the next question, which is question number 155, which says that the scholars of hadith, then they critique Imam ibn Salah when he defined al-munqati' by mentioning these two types. He said the first type, it is a chain of narration in which there's a narrator who did not hear from the one above him, the one who he narrates upon, before it reaches the tabi'i. So what is the critique of the scholars of hadith upon this statement of Imam ibn Salah, and what is the reason for this? And the Shaykh Hafidullah, he answered this question that the scholars critiqued Imam ibn Salah regarding his statement before it reaches the tabi'i, that there's a narrator who narrates upon the one who he did not hear from before he reaches the tabi'i. And the scholars said that if Imam ibn Salah was to say before it reaches the sahabi, then that was more accurate and correct. The reasoning for this is that the inqita, a break in the chain of narration, also occurs by way of a drop of the tabi'i. If there's a chain of narration in which a tabi'i is dropped, it is also called munqati'. But this wording of Imam ibn Salah, it is as if he has not included the drop of a tabi'i to be from a munqati' hadith. That until the before the tabi'i, if there's a narrator who narrates upon someone who did not hear from, then it is a munqati' near him, meaning until the atba'u tabi'in, until the tabi'i at tabi'i. and it is as if he has not included the drop of a tabi'i. And the correct matter is that the drop of a tabi'i from the chain of narration, it is also called a munqati hadith. نعم شيخنا.
سؤال 156. حدد الانقطاع الواقع في السند التالي مع تسمية الساقط من السند. عبد الرزاق هو الصنعاني عن سفيان بن سعيد الثوري عن أبي إسحاق هو عمرو بن عبد الله السبيعي عن زيد بن يثيع عن حذيفة. الجواب: الانقطاع في موضعين، أي أن الانقطاع وقع في هذا الإسناد في موضعين منه. الموضع الأول بين عبد الرزاق الصنعاني وبين سفيان الثوري، سقط من بينهما رجل وهو النعمان بن أبي شيبة الجندي. النعمان بن أبي شيبة الجندي. انتبه للتصحيف الذي سيأتي، صحح النسخة. وبين أبي إسحاق هو عمرو بن عبد الله السبيعي وزيد مه زريد وزيد ابن يثيع، والساقط بينهما هو الشريك ابن عبد الله النخعي. فالانقطاع بسقوط رجل في هذا المثال الذي مثل به ابن الصلاح رحمه الله وجعله المثال الأول بين عبد الرزاق وسفيان سقط رجل وهو النعمان، وبين أبي إسحاق السبيعي وزيد سقط رجل وهو شريك النخعي. وتجدر الإشارة في السؤال 55 بعد 100 عند قوله لا بد من فهم هذه العبارة. قوله: الإسناد الذي فيه قبل الوصول إلى التابع راو لم يسمع مطلقا، خرج من سمع ولكنه ساق الحديث والإسناد بصيغة فيها إيهام، وهذا هو التدليس. بقوله راو لم يسمع، هذا بلا ريب أنه يميز الانقطاع بسقوط راو بين راويين لم يثبت سماع أحدهما من الآخر. أما لو أن أحد الراويين وهو التلميذ سمع في الجملة من شيخه ولكنه لم يسمع أحاديث معينة وساق هذه الأحاديث بألفاظ فيها إيهام، فإن هذا يسمى تدليسا. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafizullah moved on to the next question, question number 156, which says that mention the inqita', the break in the chain of narration that occurs in the following chain. And this is the example, the first example that Imam Ibn Salah mentioned in his book Muqaddama or Muqaddama Ibn Salah for the first type of inqita' that he mentioned. So he says, an Abd al-Razzaq, and he's Abd al-Razzaq al-San'ani, and Sufyan al-Thawri, on the authority of Sufyan ibn Sa'id al-Thawri, and Abi Ishaq, on the authority of Abu Ishaq, Amr ibn Abdullah al-Sabi'i, and Zayd ibn Yuthay, and Hudhayfa radiyallahu anhu. The answer to this question is that there is a break in the chain of narration in two places in this chain. There has been a drop in two places in this chain. The first between Abdul Razzaq and Sufyan, between Abdul Razzaq al-San'ani and Sufyan al-Thawri, and the drop narrated between them is an-Nu'man bin Abi Shayba al-Janadi. An-Nu'man bin Abi Shayba al-Janadi. The second break that occurs is between Abu Ishaq al-Sabi'i and Zayd ibn Yuthay. And the Sheikh said there's a correction that needs to be made in the printed copy of the book. It is mentioned that Zurayd, and the correct correction is Zayd ibn Yuthay. And the one who has been dropped between them, between Abu Ishaq and Zayd, he is Sharik al-Nakha'i, Sharik ibn Abdullah al-Nakha'i. So this is the first example that Imam Ibn Salah has mentioned for the first type of inqita' that he mentioned in the definition of a munqati' hadith. The Shaykh also, he added a benefit in the previous question 155 when Imam Salam mentioned the first type of break by mentioning that it is a narrator who narrates upon the one who did not hear from. Then what he means in the definition of a munqati hadith is that he did not hear from him at all. He did not hear any hadith, any narration from him. He did not hear from him at all. As far as the narrator heard from the Sheikh who is narrating upon a hadith, but this specific hadith, he has not heard from him. And then he narrates it upon him, dropping the link who he heard it from, and then attributing it directly to the Sheikh who he heard generally a hadith from with a word that is not definitive in him hearing, with an-ana, by saying an, etc., then this is called tadlis. This is called tadlis, a mudallas hadith, as will come inshallah in our coming lectures. So what is meant here in the munqati definition is that this narrator did not hear at all. He did not hear any hadith from the one who is narrating upon. نعم شيخنا.
سؤال 157 هل ما قاله ابن الصلاح من أن السند الذي فيه مبهم يعني عن رجل أو نعم فيه مبهم يكون منقطعا على السند الذي يقال في أحد رواته عن رجل وهو مبهم، هل يقال فيه منقطع يكون منقطعا؟ بين الراجح. الجواب ليس بمنقطع على الراجح، ما في سنده رجل مبهم لا يقال منقطع. ماذا يقال؟ يقال فيه على الراجح سند فيه راوي مبهم ووسموا منقطعا عن رجل. بين نعم، يقال فيه سند راو مبهم، في سنده راو مبهم أو راو مجهول. أما المنقطع فيخص ما سقط فيه بين رجلين راو. نعم.
Ahsan Allah ilaykum. Then the Shaykh Habibullah moved on to the next question, question number 157, which says that the second type that Imam Ibn Salah mentioned in the definition of a munqati hadith is that in it a chain of narration in which there is a narrator who is mubham, who is unknown, narrator who is mubham, unknown, such as al-rajul, on the authority of a man, on the authority of a sheikh. So the question says, is that this definition and this type that Imam Ibn Salah mentioned in the definition of a munqati hadith, is it correct that to count it as a munqati hadith? Is it correct to label this chain to be a munqati chain? What is the correct position regarding this? The answer to this question is that this is not a munqati chain upon the correct position. The correct position is that to say that this is a chain in which there is a rawin mubham. Sanadun fihi rawin mubham. This is a chain in which there is a mubham narrator or a majhul narrator, the one who is unknown, the one who is unknown. As far as the munqati chain, then it is correct position is that it is specific to a drop that occurs in the chain, a drop that occurs in the chain in which a narrator narrates upon one who he did not hear from. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 58 بعد 100، ما الفرق بين المرسل والمنقطع؟ بين المرسل وهو مرفوع التابعي إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، والمنقطع وهو ما لم يتصل إسناده بحال من حيث الوصف وكثرة الاستعمال. الجواب: الفرق هو أن المنقطع مثل المرسل من حيث الوصف، يعني يقال حديث منقطع ويقال حديث مرسل، يوصف الإسناد بأنه أو الحديث بأنه منقطع بكثرة، كما يوصف الإسناد أو الحديث بأنه مرسل بكثرة. هذا من حيث الوصف. قال: وكلاهما شاملان لكل ما لم يتصل إسناده، وكل حديث لم يتصل إسناده يسمى منقطعا، وقد يسمى بعض العلماء كابن عبد البر مرسلا. هذا من حيث خصوصية المنقطع والمرسل. قال: وأما عند كثرة الاستعمال، يعني عند الاستعمال الكثير وإطلاق لفظة المنقطع منقطع منقطع ومرسل مرسل مرسل، يقول: أما عند كثرة الاستعمال فيطلق الإرسال مخصوص بما رواه التابعي عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، وعند كثرة الاستعمال يطلق الانقطاع على ما رواه من دون التابعي أو ما هو أعم وأشمل من دون الصحابي. هذا عند كثرة الاستعمال عند جمهور المحدثين. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Sheikh Hafizullah moved on to the next question, question number 158, which says that what is the difference between these two terminologies, al-mursal and al-munqati, in terms of using this terminology to rule upon a hadith and to describe a chain of narration and a hadith. And the second matter is what is the difference between these two terminologies based on that which is the used frequently by the scholars of hadith, that which is used in which manner these two terminologies are used frequently by the scholars of hadith. The answer to this question is that the difference between the mursal and munqati terminology in terms of describing a hadith and chains of narrations is that munqati is just like the mursal terminology, terminology in terms of describing the chain of narration. Why? Because both of them, they are those chains in which there's a break that occurs in the chain, in which there's a drop of a narrator from the chain of narration. So every chain in which there's a break in the chain of narration, there's a drop of a narrator, then it is called munqati. And in here, some of the scholars, such as Imam Ibn Abdul Barr, as has preceded, then they also use the terminology mursal for this hadith in which there's a break in the chain of narration. As far as that which is frequent, the way that these terminologies are used frequently by the scholars of hadith, by the majority of the scholars of hadith, then the mursal terminology is specific to that which the tabi'i ascribes to the Prophet ﷺ, in which there's a break at the ending of the chain. The tabi'i raises the hadith to the Prophet ﷺ. As far as the munqati terminology, then it is specific to that break that occurs before the tabi'i or before the sahabi, in which there's a drop in the chain of narration before the sahabi. Naam, Sheikh.
قوله هنا أيضا في السؤال نفسه وهو 58 بعد 100، قول ابن الصلاح: المنقطع مثل المرسل من حيث الوصف وكلاهما شاملان، يعني المنقطع والمرسل شاملان يشملان كل ما لم يتصل إسناده يطلق عليه منقطع ويطلق عليه مرسل. هذا المشهور أنه عن ابن عبد البر، لكن الأئمة فيها أئمة سبقوا إلى هذا الاصطلاح، وهم الأئمة الشافعي والطبراني والحميدي والدارقطني وابن حزم. سؤال 59 بعد 100: ما رأي ابن الصلاح في تعريف أبي بكر الخطيب للمنقطع، من أن المنقطع هو الحديث ما روي عن التابعي أو من دونه موقوفا عليه من قوله أو فعله، مع بيان السبب، علل لذلك يبين سببه. الجواب: رأي الخطيب يعني فيه غرابة، غريب كما وصفه ابن الصلاح بقوله غريب بعيد. وسبب هذا لأن هذا تعريف المقطوع والموقوف على التابعي من قوله أو فعله، لا المنقطع. هو تعريف المقطوع لا المنقطع. وقد حكى هذا الكلام الخطيب البغدادي كما في مقدمة ابن الصلاح عن بعض أهل العلم بالحديث، والذي نص عليه هو أبو بكر أحمد بن هارون البرديجي في جزء لطيف له سماه المتصل والمنقطع، لكنه كما تقدم وصفه من قبل ابن الصلاح غريب بعيد. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Habibullah, he moved on to the next question. And before he moved on to the next question, he added as a benefit in the previous question, question number 158, in which was mentioned that some of the scholars, such as Imam Ibn Abdul Barr, then they use the terminology of mursal also for that chain in which there's a break that occurs regardless of where the break occurs. So they use this terminology similarly as the munqati' terminology. The Shaykh added here the benefit that Imam Ibn Abdul Barr, he is the most famous of the scholars of Hadith to whom this usage of this terminology of mursal in such a way is ascribed. But he is not the first of the scholars of Hadith. Rather, there are scholars of Hadith who have preceded him in this usage. From them is Imam al-Shafi'i and Imam al-Tabarani and Imam al-Humaydi and Imam al-Daraqutni and Imam Ibn Hazm rahimahumullah. The next question, question number 159, it says 159. It says that what is the opinion and position of Imam Ibn Salah regarding the definition of Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, Abu Bakr al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, for the munqati' chain and the munqati' hadith, in which Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi defined the munqati' chain by saying that it is that which stops upon the tabi'i, that chain which stops upon the tabi'i or even before him, from the tabi'i, at-tabi'i, or even before them, from a statement of a tabi'i or the one before him, or his action, that it is a statement of a tabi'i or his action or the ones before them. And what is the reasoning for this? The answer to this question is that Imam Ibn Salah said regarding this definition of the munqati' terminology of Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi by saying it is gharibun ba'id, that is extremely strange and is extremely far away from the correct definition of a munqati' hadith. And the reason for this is that this definition that Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi has mentioned, it is the definition of the maqtu' hadith, as has preceded with us in the previous lectures, that this is the definition of maqtu' hadith, in which the chain of narration it stops upon the tabi'i, up from his statement or his action, or the ones before him from the atba'u tabi'in or one before them. This is the definition of a maqtu' hadith and not a munqati' hadith. And Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, then he has ascribed this definition of munqati' to some of the scholars of hadith who preceded him, and the one who explicitly mentioned this the definition of a munqati' hadith, and that it is well known upon him to use the munqati' terminology in such a manner, then he is Imam al-Bardiji, Abu Bakr Ahmad ibn Harun al-Bardiji rahimahullah. He used this terminology of munqati' in such a manner in his well-known small treatise that he has authored, al-Muttasil wal-Munqati'. نعم شيخنا.
سؤال 60 بعد 100. ما تعريف الحديث المعضل عند ابن الصلاح وما مثاله لديه؟ الجواب هو ما سقط المعضل ما سقط من إسناده 2 فصاعدا، وهو النوع 11 معرفة المعضل. ما هو المعضل؟ قال ابن الصلاح ما سقط من إسناده 2 فصاعدا، ولا بد من تقدير على التوالي، لأنه قد يسقط 2 لا على التوالي، السقوط الأول في أول الإسناد والسقوط الثاني في أثناء الإسناد أو في آخر الإسناد، فهذا يصدق أن يقال سقط من إسناده 2. لكن لما كان السقط للاثنين ليس على التوالي فإنه يسمى منقطعا. أما إذا كان السقط على التوالي فإنه يسمى معضلا. مثاله ما يرويه تابع التابعي. تابع التابعي، تابع التابعي كمالك مثلا أدرك التابعية لكنه لم يدرك الصحابي، فإذا قال تابع التابعي قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، فيكون تابع التابع أسقط من؟ أسقط تابعيا وأسقط صحابيا، فيصدق على هذا سقوط اثنين فصاعدا، فهذا صورة من صور المعضل. وأما الصورة الأعم والقاعدة الأعم للمعضل فيقال المعضل سقوط راويين على التوالي من السند. ويلاحظ هنا، وهذا من الفوائد، أن المعضل ذكره ابن الصلاح عقب المرسل والمنقطع، فالمرسل هو النوع التاسع، والمنقطع هو النوع العاشر، والنوع الحادي عشر هو المعضل. فلماذا أخر ابن الصلاح المعضل عن المرسل والمنقطع؟ لأنه أضعف وأسوأ حالا من المرسل والمنقطع، فلذلك ذكره تاليا عقب المرسل والمنقطع. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Sheikh, Hafidullah, he moved on to the next question, question number 160, in which we began another terminology, and it is a third type of weak hadith due to a break, a drop that occurs in the chain of narration, and it is the mu'dal hadith and the mu'dal terminology. And this is the 11th terminology that Imam Ibn Salah has mentioned in his book Al-Muqaddamah, Ma'rifat al-Mu'dal, knowing the mu'dal terminology and hadith. The question, it says 160, that what is the definition of al-mu'dal, the mu'dal hadith that Imam Ibn Salah mentioned in his book, and what is the example that he mentioned for it? The answer to this question is that the mu'dal hadith, it is the hadith and the chain of narration in which there are two or more narrators that have been dropped. The chain from which two or more narrators that have been dropped. And the Sheikh, he added here that it is imperative to add the condition that they are dropped upon at-tawali, meaning in succession, in the chain in which there is a drop of two or more narrators in succession back to back. This is known as a mu'dal hadith. As far as if the drop of two or more narrators was from various places of the chain of narration without succession, then this is known as a munqati' hadith, as has preceded with us in the example that Imam Ibn Salah mentioned of the chain of Abdul Razzaq and Sufyan and Abi Ishaq and Zayd and Hudayfa, that there was a break in two places, but it was not in succession. This is why it was known as a munqati' hadith. As far as the mu'dal, it is a condition that the break of two or more narrators, it occurs in succession. As far as the example that Imam Ibn Salah mentioned for a mu'dal hadith, then he said that it is that which a tabi'u at-tabi'i, one from the atba'u tabi'in, he narrates upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a hadith in which the tabi'u at-tabi'i, he says qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said such and such. So in this chain, then there is a drop of at least two narrators, and they are the tabi'i and the sahabi. They are the tabi'i and the sahabi. And the example is a narration of Malik, Imam Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah, on the authority of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Malik is from the atba'u tabi'in. He's tabi'u at-tabi'i. So when he ascribes a hadith to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then there's a drop of at least two narrators, which is the tabi'i and the sahabi. Imam Malik, he only met the tabi'in. He did not meet anyone from the sahaba. And this is the specific example that Imam Ibn Salah has mentioned. As far as the general example of a mu'dal hadith, then it is that in which there's a drop of two or more narrators in succession from any place in the chain of narration. And the Sheikh mentioned a benefit here, that the previous these three types that have come in succession of the weak hadith due to there being a break in the chain of narration, the first of them, the mursal hadith, which was terminology number 9 in the book Muqaddam Ibn Salah. Then Imam Ibn Salah mentioned after it the terminology number 10, which is the munqati' hadith, and now he has mentioned terminology in number 11, which is the mu'dal hadith. So we see that Imam Ibn Salah mentioned al-mu'dal after mursal and munqati'. And benefit here is that he has mentioned it after mursal and munqati', because the mu'dal hadith, it is more weak. It is more weak than the mursal and munqati' hadith, and it is of a lesser degree than a mursal and munqati' hadith, because there's a break of two or more narrators in a mu'dal hadith. Naam, Shaykhana.
السؤال 61 بعد 100. ما معنى قول المؤلف يعني ابن الصلاح وليس كل إن المعضل، يعني نعم كل معضل منقطع. ما معنى قول المؤلف أي ابن الصلاح كل معضل منقطع وليس كل منقطع معضلا؟ الجواب: معناه أن المعضل فيه انقطاع، وليس كل منقطع معضلا، لأنه يعني الانقطاع يكون بالإعضال بغيره يعني بالإرسال، بالتدليس، بالتعليق، وهلم جرا. فقوله كل معضل، قول ابن الصلاح كل معضل منقطع باعتبار أن سقوط راويين يعد انقطاعا، وليس كل منقطع معضلا بأي اعتبار، باعتبار أن الانقطاع إذا أطلق فإنه يطلق في الغالب بما لم يتصل بأي حال من الأحوال، وعلى الأخص بسقوط راو واحد في موضع واحد، بسقوط راو واحد في موضع واحد. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafidullah, he moved on to the next question, question number 161, that says that what is the meaning of the statement of the author, meaning Imam Ibn Salah, in which he says that every mu'dal, then it is munqati', but not every munqati' is mu'dal. Not every munqati' is mu'dal. The answer to this question is that the meaning of his statement is that every mu'dal hadith, then it is munqati'. There's a break in the chain of narration. There's a drop that occurs in the chain of narration. But not every munqati' hadith, then it is mu'dal. Then it is mu'dal, that there's a drop of two or more narrators that occurs in succession. For really, the break in the chain of narration in munqati' hadith, it could occur by other than this fashion. So it could be a mursal hadith, in which the break occurs, in which the tabi'in ascribes a hadith to the Prophet as has preceded. Or it could be tadlis, as will come. So the breaks that occur in the munqati' hadith, it is not just restricted to two or more narrators in succession, as is in the mu'dal hadith. So every mu'dal hadith, then it is munqati', in which there's a break. There's a break. The munqati' hadith, it is a hadith in which there is a break, a drop that occurs, regardless of how this drop and break and where it occurs. So every mu'dal, it is munqati', but not every munqati' is mu'dal. نعم شيخنا.
نعم. السؤال 62 بعد 100. استشكل أبو عمرو بن الصلاح قول المحدثين أعضله فهو معضل. فلماذا استشكل أبو عمرو بن الصلاح هذه الكلمة أعضله فهو معضل؟ فلماذا؟ وما توجيهه لهذا الاستعمال؟ الجواب: استشكل ابن الصلاح رحمه الله تعالى كلمة أعضله، لأن القياس في أعضله أن يقال معضل بالكسر لا معضل بالفتح، ووجه هذا الاستعمال معضل بأنه من قولهم بأنه استعمال صحيح واشتقاق صواب، ووجهه بأنه من قولهم أمر عضيل أي مستغلق أو مستغلق شديد فهو معضل. فالاستعمال جار على القياس الصرفي العربي الصحيح ولا وجه للاستغراب. يعني عضيل من قولهم أمر عضيل أي مستغلق شديد فهو معضل. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafidullah moved on to the next question, question number 162, that says that Imam Ibn Salah, then he found the statements of the scholars of Hadith upon ruling upon this terminology by saying mu'dal. The statement of the scholars of hadith by saying this word mu'dal to be difficult. So why did he find this matter difficult, and what is our response to it? When the scholars of hadith, they say a'dalahu, that the narrator, he performed idal, a'dalahu fahuwa mu'dal. So it is a mu'dal chain, it is mu'dal hadith. So what is the difficult matter in this, and what is the answer to it? The answer to this is that Imam ibn Salah, he found this terminology difficult because in his view, the correct way to pronounce this word should be mu'dil, with the kasra upon the dad, mu'dil, and not mu'dal with the fatha upon the dad, And the terminology that the scholars of hadith have used, mu'dal with the fatha, then it is correct. It is a correct terminology that is based upon the rules of the Arabic language, and there's no matter that is a difficult matter in this regard, because they have used it from the speech of the person when he says amrun adil, that this is a matter that is adil, meaning it is extremely unclear. It is extremely unclear and vague. So it is mu'dal. So this matter is mu'dal. So this is how the scholars of hadith have derived this word and this terminology mu'dal from the speech of the Arabs, in which they say that this matter is adil, meaning it is extremely vague and extremely unclear. So this usage of this terminology with this word mu'dal with the fatha, it is completely correct based on the speech of the Arabs and based on the rules of the Arabic language. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 63 بعد 100. لماذا ذكر ابن الصلاح من ضمن ما ذكر من أمثلة المنقطع قول الإمام مالك رحمه الله: بلغني عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال: للمملوك طعامه وكسوته. الحديث. لماذا ذكر ابن الصلاح هذا ضمن المثال ضمن نوع المعضل بسقوط راويين؟ والجواب: لأن أبا نصر السجزي عزى لأهل الحديث تسميتهم لهذه الصورة بالمعضل، والسبب والتعليل أن يقال في هذا المثال الأمر كذلك. قول مالك بلغني عن أبي هريرة ضمن المعضل، لأن الساقط في هذا السند بين مالك وأبي هريرة هما راويان على التوالي: محمد بن عجلان وأبوه. والمراد بأبي نصر السجزي هو أبو نصر عبد الله بن سعيد الوائلي البكري السجزي، المتوفى سنة 44 و400، وله كتاب الإبانة الكبرى على مذهب السلف في القرآن، وأنه كتاب الله منزل، وهو صاحب الرسالة إلى أهل زبيد. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafizullah moved on to the next question number 163, that says that why did Imam Ibn Salah in his book al-Muqaddamah mention the statement of Imam Malik in his book al-Muwatta when he says Balaghani an Abi Hurairah, that it has reached me upon Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, that he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said this hadith lil mamluki ta'amuhu wa kiswatuhu, that upon the owner of a slave, upon him is the duty and responsibility to provide food for him and clothing for him. So why did Imam Ibn Salah mention this hadith in which Imam Malik says that it has reached me upon the authority of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu as an example of a mu'dal hadith and to be part of mu'dal, because in its apparent state then Imam Malik, who's from the Atba' Tabi'een, he is narrating here upon a Sahabi. So in its apparent state, it is as if there's only a break and a drop of only one narrator, who is the Tabi'i. but we will find out in the answer that this is a mu'dal hadith. The answer to this question is that Imam Ibn Salah, he mentioned this example as being a mu'dal hadith because Imam Abu Nasr al-Sizzi, then he ascribed this hadith and this example to the scholars of hadith that they rule upon this hadith to be mu'dal. They rule upon this hadith to be mu'dal. And Abu Nasr al-Sijzi, then he's Imam Abu Nasr Abdullah ibn Sa'id al-Wa'ili al-Bakri al-Sijzi, rahimahullah, passed in the year 444 after the Hijrah, and he is the author of the well-known book Al-Ibanatul Kubra. Al-Ibanatul Kubra, that is the Salaf, and also he has a treatise, Al-Risala ila Ahl Zabid, and other beneficial books. As far as the reason as to why this hadith is correct as being a mu'dal hadith, and that the rules of the scholars of hadith upon this hadith to be mu'dal is correct, it is because there has been a drop of two narrators between Malik and Abu Hurairah. There's a drop of two narrators in this chain between Imam Malik and Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and they are Muhammad ibn Ajlan and his father Ajlan. These are the two narrators that are dropped in succession between Malik and Abu Hurairah. So this is a mu'dal hadith. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال الرابع والستون بعد 100: ما توجيه قول المصنفين من الفقهاء قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كذا وكذا وأنه من قبيل المعضل؟ الجواب: التوجيه من أن قول المصنفين من الفقهاء قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كذا وكذا من قبيل المعضل باعتبار عدم الاتصال، باعتبار عدم الاتصال نعم في هذا القول وفي المعضل. فالمعضل ليس يوجد الاتصال بسقوط راويين، وكذلك فيما يتعلق بقول الفقهاء قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ليس يوجد في هذا الأسلوب بقول الفقهاء قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ليس يوجد الاتصال، فسقوط راويان فأكثر هنا. وقد يطلق على هذه الصورة اسما معلق، وهو ما حذف من إسناده راو فأكثر. وقول الفقهاء أشبه ما يكون تارة بالإعضال وتارة بالتعليق، والله أعلم.
أحسن الله عليك. Then the Shaykh Habibullah, he moved on to the next question, question number 164, that says that what is the reasoning for ruling upon the statements of the fuqaha, the jurists of Islam, when they mention in their books of fiqh that qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam such and such, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said such and such, without mentioning any chain of narration of these statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and these ahadith. Then what is the reasoning to call these ahadith in these books to be mu'dal, The answer to this question is that they are called mu'dal because there is a break in the chain of narration, because these ahadith, they are mentioned without the connected chain between this faqih, this jurist, until the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is why they are called mu'dal, because there's a drop of two, rather more than two narrators in succession, more than two narrators in succession between this faqih, between this jurist, this scholar, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Sheikh said that this could also be called mu'allaq, as will come inshallah in our coming classes from the terminologies. Mu'allaq, in which there's a break that occurs in the beginning of the chain, in which the narrator and the author, he hides the chain from the beginning, either one narrator or the one above him also, his sheikh, and the one above him also, until they reach the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He hides the complete chain and just says qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said such and such. So it could also be called a mu'allaq. So this is called mu'dal because of there being a break in the chain in which there's a drop of two or more narrators in succession in the chain. نعم شيخ.
هذا السؤال الأخير إن شاء الله لعلني أختم به. السؤال 65 بعد 100. لماذا عد المثال التالي ضمن المعضل؟ الأعمش عن الشعبي قال: يقال للرجل يوم القيامة: عملت كذا وكذا، فيقول: ما عملته، فيختم على فيه. شرح السؤال: الأعمش سليمان بن مهران من صغار التابعين. الشعبي عامر بن شراحيل من طبقة أواسط التابعين. قال يقال. شوف، الشعبي تابعي، قال يقال، فأسقط الصحابي وأسقط ذكر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: يقال للرجل كذا وكذا. الجواب: لأن الأعمش عضله، والأصل فيه أنه مروي عن الشعبي عن أنس عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، فأسقط الأعمش الصحابي وهو أنس ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، وأصل الحديث مخرج في صحيح مسلم. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafizullah, he moved on to the next question, question number 165, and he said we'll finish this lecture with this question, and it is a completion of the mu'adal terminology that occurs in the book Muqaddam al-Salah, and it says that why has the following example and the following chain has been counted as a mu'adal chain, and it is a chain in which it is mentioned that al-Amash, he narrates upon a Sha'bi that he says that it will be said to a person on the day of judgment that you said or you did such and such, that you did such and such. So he will say that I did not do such and such, that he will negate doing such and such. So his mouth will be sealed from speaking. His mouth will be sealed from speaking. Why has this been called a mu'adal hadith? The Shaykh Habibullah, he said that to explain this chain, then al-Amash, he is Sulaiman ibn Mihran, al-Amash, and he is from the minor tabi'een. He's from the minor tabi'een. He narrates upon a Sha'bi. He is Amir ibn Sharahbil al-Sha'bi, and he is from the middle tabi'een, the middle level of the tabi'een. And he says that it will be said to a person on the day of judgment, such and such, such and such. So the reason that this hadith has been called a mu'adal hadith, is ruled upon with being a mu'adal chain, is because Imam al-Amash, he performed idal of it. He performed idal of it. So the chain is from the narration of a Sha'bi on the authority of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, on the authority of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So two narrators are dropped in succession, and they are the Sahabi Anas ibn Malik and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and this is why this is called the mu'adal hadith. And this connected chain, the proper connected chain, it is found in Sahih Muslim for this hadith. And we'll finish with this. نشكركم شكرا جزيلا شيخنا على ما قدمتم وافدتم به. وهناك بعض الأسئلة لو سمحتم نطرحها عليكم.
تفضل.
سائل يسأل يقول: ذكرتم أن سر ذكر الإمام ابن صلاح للمعدل بعد المرسل والمنقطع أن المعدل أضعف وأسوأ حالا من المرسل والمنقطع، ولكن جميع هذه الأصناف من الحديث ضعيفة. المرسل ضعيف، والمنقطع ضعيف، والمعدل ضعيف. فما الفائدة من تأخير أحدها على الأخرى؟
الفائدة مثل معرفة صحيح الأسانيد وأصح الأسانيد للترجيح بينها حين وقوع ما ظاهره التعارض، فيقدم الضعيف على الأضعف، لأن الضعيف أقسام وأنواع، فمن الضعيف ما هو ضعيف ضعفا خفيفا، ومن الضعيف ما هو ضعيف ضعفا شديدا، ومن الضعيف ما هو واهن، ومن الضعيف ما هو مكذوب. ومعرفة مراتب الضعيف للترجيح بينها، والأمر الثاني لمعرفة ما يستشهد مما لا يستشهد، وما يعتضد في نفسه ويعضد غيره مما لا يعتضد في نفسه ولا يعضد غيره. نعم.
أحسن الله إليك. The questioner, he said that what is the difference between mursal and munqati' and mu'dal in terms of strength, because all of them, then they are from the weak ahadith in which there's a break in the chain of narration. So if all of them are weak ahadith, then what is the use for these separate classifications for where the break occurs? The Shaykh Hafidullah, he answered this question by saying that the use for these classifications in the weak da'if hadith, it is just like the use for various classifications in the Sahih Hadith has preceded with us in the previous lectures. We learned in our previous lecture that the Sahih Hadith is of various levels. It is of various levels. So from it is that which is known as Asahul Asanid. That is the most authentic chains of narrations. The Sahih Hadith, it is of various levels. And we learned the benefit there, that the benefit of knowing this is to give one hadith preference over another when there is an apparent contradiction that occurs between these two ahadith. And when there's apparent contradiction that occurs between these two ahadith, so the asah is given precedence over the sahih. The one that is stronger in terms of authenticity is given precedence over the one that is sahih. So similarly is the da'if, weak hadith, that the one that is da'if, with a minor weakness, it is given precedence over the weak hadith, the da'if, which is with a major weakness. The Shaykh mentioned that the da'if hadith, it is of various levels also. From it is da'if, da'if da'afan yathiran, that has a minor weakness, and there is da'if da'afan shadidan, that has a major weakness, and from the da'if is the makdhub, that which is a fabricated lie upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the da'if with a minor weakness, it is given precedence over the da'if which is with a major weakness. Another benefit is to know which of these weak chains could be strengthened and could be used as strength to strengthen other chains. So the da'if with a major weakness, it can never be strengthened. It can never be raised to the rank of al-hasan li ghayrihi, nor can it strengthen others. But the da'if with a minor weakness, then it is the one that can be strengthened to reach to the level of hasan li ghayrihi, and it could also strengthen another chain that is also da'if with a minor weakness. سؤال آخر شيخنا يتعلق بهذا السؤال، هل يعني من هذا أن المعدل من أقسام الضعيف شديد الضعف؟
لا، ليس يقتضي أن يكون ضعيفا شديد الضعف، لكنه أسوأ حالا وأنزل رتبة من المنقطع بسقوط راو واحد في موضع واحد، لكن ليس بشديد الضعف. شديد الضعف كأن يكون مكذوبا، أو في سنده راو متهم بالكذب، أو في سنده متروك، أو في سنده واهن، أو في سنده ضعيف جدا، فهذا الذي يطلق عليه ضعيف جدا وواهن، لا يعتضد في نفسه ولا يعضد ولا يقوي غيره. أما الانقطاع بجميع أنواعه فقد يستأنس به ويستشهد به ويقوي غيره، لا سيما إذا كانت الطرق خالية من هذه الآفة، وهي قضية الانقطاع والإعضال.
أحسن الله إليكم. The questioner, he said that then building upon this question, is the mu'dal hadith, is it considered to be da'if, a weak hadith with a major weakness? The question, the Shaykh Hafidullah answered this question by saying no. The mu'dal hadith, it is not considered a weak hadith with a major weakness. Rather, it is a weak hadith with a minor weakness. And all of the types of the munqati' hadith in which there's a break in the chain of narration, the ones that we have studied until this lecture, the mursal hadith and the munqati' hadith and the mu'dal hadith, and the ones that will come in the coming lectures, the mudallas hadith and the mu'allaq hadith, all of these ahadith, they are weak with a minor weakness. So they can be strengthened. If another chain comes that strengthens it, it could be raised to the rank of al-hasan li ghayri, and it could also strengthen others. So it is not weak hadith with a major weakness. As well as the major hadith with a major weakness, then it is that in which we have a narrator who is matruk or wahin or muttaham bil kadhib or kadhab. These are those chains in which we rule upon them to be chains with a major weakness that can never be strengthened, nor can they strengthen others. سؤال آخر شيخنا، يسأل السائل يقول أحيانا نجد بين العلماء اختلاف في هل سمع فلان من فلان أم لا. أحدهم يثبت السماع والآخر ينفي السماع، فلماذا يحصل هذا وكيف نصل إلى الصواب في هذه المسألة؟
وضع العلماء والمحدثون الراسخون في علوم الحديث وضعوا ضوابط وقيود لهذا الاختلاف والتعارض لئلا يبقى هذا الاختلاف يعني سائبا غير منضبط. ومن ضمن الضوابط التي وضعوها ما يتعلق بوصف الراوي بصفتين مهمتين، إحداهما تدليس، هل هو مدلس أو غير مدلس، والصفة الثانية هل هو ممن يرسل إرسالا خفيا. وما الفرق بينهما؟ التدليس أن يروي الراوي عمن عاصره وسمع منه ما لم يسمع منه موهما سماعه منه، هذا تدليس الإسناد. وأما الإرسال الخفي فأن يروي فلان عن فلان مع عدم وجود سماع البتة، وقد توجد معاصرة. فبهاتين الصفتين نحقق قضية اتصال من عدم اتصال وانقطاع من عدم انقطاع. هذا أحد الضوابط. الضابط الثاني معرفة كتب من حاول أن يستقصي في طبقتي الشيوخ والتلاميذ كالحافظ المزي في تهذيب الكمال، فما من ذكره الترمذي في شيوخ هذا التلميذ فقال روى عن فلان وسمع من فلان، فهذا مما استأنس العلماء به على أنه سمعه منه، على أنه سمع الحديث منه. كذلك ما يتعلق بكتب المراسيل، مراجعتها ومطالعتها من الأمور التي ضبط بها المحدثون الاتصال من الانقطاع. ومن أهم ما يستعان به على ذلك كتاب المراسيل لابن أبي حاتم، وقد صدرت منه طبعة جديدة ومنقحة ومزيدة ومنقحة ومقابلة. وكذلك أوسع منه كتاب جامع التحصيل بأحكام المراسيل للعلائي، والكتاب هذا له عدد من الطبعات، من أفضلها الطبعة الأخيرة التي استدرك فيها على الطبعة التي سبقتها بأكثر من 1000 استدراك بتحقيق نافذ حسين. والإنسان إذا أراد أن يكون حديثيا وأن يسلك مسلك طلاب الحديث وفي مستقبل أيامه علماء الحديث ويكون من الراسخين فيه، لابد وأن يصحب في مسيرته العلمية الحديثية الكتب الحديثية الموثوقة، ويلقي بعصا التسيار إلى آخر الطبعات وأوثقها، لأن العصر عصر وجادة. يعني وجدت كتبا نستعين بها على دراسة الحديث، فلا أقل من أن تكون الطبعات الموجودة بين أيدينا من الطبعات الموثوقة التي قوبلت على عدد من النسخ الخطية الموثوقة. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. The questioner, he said that sometimes we find that there's a difference between the scholars of hadith about if a particular narrator heard hadith from another narrator that he narrates upon. Why does this difference of opinion happen? And how do we establish if a narrator heard from the one he narrates from? The Shaykh Hafidullah, he mentioned that the scholars of hadith, the imams of the science, the pillars of the science, then they have mentioned rules, and they have mentioned the principles by way of one removes this difference of opinion and he reaches the correct position in these matters in which the scholars of hadith have differed. From the rules and principles that the scholars of hadith have mentioned is to know if the narrator is one who performs tadlis, if he's a mudallis narrator, and if he's one who performs al-irsal al-khafi. He is someone who performs al-irsal al-khafi. And this will come in a coming lecture in detail. As far as the mudallis narrator, the one who performs tadlis, he is the one who narrates a hadith upon a narrator who he heard a hadith from generally, but he did not hear the specific hadith with a word that is not definitive in him hearing this hadith from him. For example, bil an-ana, he says an. So this is tadlisul isnad. As far as al-irsal al-khafi, then it is that narration that a narrator narrates upon the one who he met or he never met, but they lived in the same time period, and he never heard any hadith from him. He met, but he never heard any hadith from him, or he never met him, and of course he never heard any hadith from him, and they lived in the same time period with a word also that is not definitive in him hearing from him by, for example, by saying an. So once we know if this narrator is mudallis narrator or he performs irsal al-khafi or not, then we can use it to remove this difference that occurs between two scholars of hadith in establishing that he heard from him or he did not hear from him. A second, the rule that the scholars of hadith have mentioned is that to know the books in which the scholars of hadith have counted the shuyukh and talamid, the one who a narrator narrates upon a hadith upon and who narrates upon him, and they have went to great efforts in counting these shuyukh and talamid, and they mention how he heard from him and how he narrated hadith upon him. From the greatest of these books is the book Tahdhib al-Kamal fi Asma al-Rijal of Imam al-Mizzi, in which he mentions the biographies of narrators of hadith. In every narrator's biography, he mentions his shuyukh in detail, who he narrated hadith upon and how he narrated it. And he mentions benefits as to if he narrated upon him and he did not hear hadith from him. And from the greatest of the books that helps one in reaching the correct position if this narrator narrated upon the one who narrates hadith upon or not is the book al-Marasil of Imam Ibn Abi Hatim al-Razi, and the book Jami al-Tahsil fi Ahkam al-Marasil of Imam al-Alai. And the best editions of these books are the latest editions, the last editions, the book of al-Marasil of Imam Ibn Abi Hatim, and the latest edition of the book Jami al-Tahsil, which is published with the edited copy of Nafid Hussein Hamad, and it is published by Dar ibn al-Jawzi. And this is the greatest edition that has been published of this book Jami al-Tahsil until now. In this latest edition, he has corrected the errors and the mistakes of the previous editions with 1,000 corrections, with more than 1,000 corrections. And the Sheikh mentioned the benefit that it is upon the student of knowledge, a devout, diligent student of knowledge who wishes to gain proficiency in this science, the science of hadith, and to raise in his levels and ranks, that he gives importance to the books of hadith that he collects and that he buys and that he builds his library upon, and that he collects and buys the most authentic editions of the books of hadith, even if he has to buy it several times and pay money every time, but he gives diligence and importance to this matter of buying the most correct and the most authentic edition, because this generation and our time is the time of vijada, in which there's no sama and there's no ard, as the scholars of the past used to dictate a hadith with continuous chains. Rather, it is the generation of books that have reached us, and we have found this book. So it is upon one to give importance to this matter of buying the most authentic text in every books of hadith. سؤال أخير شيخنا ونختم بهذا السؤال. يسأل السائل: نجد بعض العلماء يقولون عن إسناد مرسل صحيح، فماذا يعنون بهذا الاصطلاح؟
يعني أن إسناد هذا الحديث المرسل صحيح، ليس يوجد فيه انقطاع غير الانقطاع الذي في منتهاه وهو الإرسال، وإلا فالأصل أن المرسل من قسم الضعيف المنقطع، لكن يعنون أن إسناد هذا الحديث المرسل من مؤلفه إلى من وقف عليه وهو التابعي فرفع الحديث إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، أن إسناده صحيح ومتصل، لكنه حديث مرسل، والمرسل من قسم الضعيف.
أحسن الله إليكم. The final question, the questioner says that we find that some of the scholars of hadith use this terminology, mursalun sahih. Mursalun sahih, even though we have learned that the mursal hadith is a weak hadith, a da'if hadith from the various types of weak hadith. So what do they mean by this terminology? The Sheikh Habibullah answered this question by saying that the scholars of hadith, when they rule upon a chain to be mursalun sahih, that they mean that it is authentic connected chain until where the chain breaks, which is upon the tabi'i. That there's no break that occurs before the tabi'i, that it is a connected sahih chain until the tabi'i, and then he raises it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's a break at the ending of the chain in which the tabi'i ascribes the hadith to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is mursal, but it is sahih until the tabi'i. Until the tabi'i, there's no break. There's no break that occurs until it reaches the tabi'i, but it is mursal because it is that which the tabi'i ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. نختم بهذا شيخنا ونشكركم مرة أخرى شكرا جزيلا، وندعو الله أن يتقبل منكم ويجزيكم خير الجزاء ويجعله في ميزان حسناتكم يوم القيامة، ونلقاكم بإذن الله في اللقاء القادم.
اللقاء القادم لعلنا إن شاء الله نلتقي بعد رمضان، أليس ذلك كذلك؟
بلى شيخنا.
أيوة طيب، وهو كذلك. أسأل الله أن يجمعنا وإياكم على الخير، ويرزقني وإياكم إدراك شهر رمضان، وأن يعينني وإياكم والمسلمين على صيامه وقيامه والتوبة فيه والإنابة إليه، إنه أكرم مسؤول وخير مأمول، هو أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة، والله أعلى وأعلم. وصل اللهم وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد، والحمد لله رب العالمين.